Hi guys, SDJR SNF88 speaking. We're a review of a model I've been meaning to get for a number of years now, but finally have got round to getting one. Now this review, I suppose you could call it a bit of a special review, as I've been meaning to do one for a couple of months now, but this is the only time I've been managed to actually get up here and actually film one. As the last review, the 45XX, was pre-filmed quite a few months back, but I wanted to do a review, well, a special review, to mark the special a special point in my channel's history, which of course is passing the 1,000 subscribers mark. Now I did that about 2 months ago, well, thanks to you guys. But recently my channel's also had another jump in subscribers, and literally about last week my channel passed 1,100 subscribers. So it really has grown in such a short space of time. So I suppose you could call this a 1,100 subscriber special. So anyway, what is the model in question? Now obviously the name of the video, and you could just see it to the left of the box there. The model, of course, is the Bachmann 3F Jinty. Now, as mentioned, I've been meaning to get one of these locos for such a long time, as they are just such beautiful models, and of course they have an S&D connection. And after going to the Avon Valley Railway's end of season gala, where a last minute guest to replace the sadly failed BT well tank was in fact number 47406 from the Great Central Railway, which of course is a Jinty. And I've been meaning to see one running as well for a number of years, but the only one I've probably seen running is probably disguised as Thomas, and that was many years ago. But finally I saw one running. It was absolutely beautiful, and after that weekend I decided to pop down to Signals Models and of course purchase one. Now this one is a bit different, and I hope you agree. I think this one is very me in the form of the livery, as this one is number 23 in SDJR Blue Livery, which I think is very fitting. As you can see on the end of the box, the code is 32233, class 3F Jinty number 23 SDJR Blue. And boy, what a beautiful livery it is. I mean, it's absolutely stunning. Now, this model is based on the preserved number 23. Now, this is where it gets a bit confusing. The real loco, number 23, which is at the Butterley Midland Railway Centre. I believe I've pronounced that correctly. I've probably pronounced that totally wrong. It's along the bottom of the screen anyway. And basically, it's actually number, well, British Rail number 47327, actually painted to represent number 23, as 23 was in her BR form was sadly scrapped, but they've repainted her as her fellow member of a class. So yeah, she looks absolutely stunning. I still have yet to see the real, have yet to see 23. But anyway, Bachmann have decided to recreate the model of her. If we turn the back of the box, we have, as always, a brief history on the class. Now I'm only going to go through a little brief bit of this. Basically, the designs for the 3F could be traced back to S.W. Johnson, but the main designer of the Fowler 3F, who created the loco in this form, was of course Sir Henry Fowler. And it was such a successful design, the Midland really needed these 060 tank engines. And they were such a success that in total 422 were built between 1924 and 1931. Now that is quite a lot of locos indeed. There were so many in fact, that the Midland Railway had to actually employ subcontractors to actually keep up building the numbers of them. So these were Vulcan, Bagnall and Hunslet, were to name a few, where these locos were built, because the Midlands workshops could not handle the sheer amount that we needed producing. Now, the SDJR, Somerset Dorset Joint Railway, bought a number of these and commissioned a number of these from the Midland Railway in 1929, I believe, and basically delivered in this blue livery. Now, there's a lot of rumour behind the blue livery, as you know, some people say that these locos carried it, some people say that they didn't. They could have been carried SDJR but in black livery, but I believe they did see service in blue like this. And basically because the four Fs were seen in it, and also 2 Ps were seen in this livery. Now, the reason why it is so hard to pinpoint the locos in this livery on the S&D was because it was very, very, very short-lived. The locos were delivered in 1929, but in 1930, the Somerset and Dorset became part of the LMS, which meant all the locos and rolling stock on the line were repainted into LMS livery, and of course the Jintys were one of the first to be repainted into LMS livery. So literally, the livery only lasted at maximum about a year, maybe if lucky, a year and a half. So there was not very much documentation on whether the locos were ever seen in blue or not. But anyway, the loco just looks absolutely stunning in this livery. Now, of course, I'm going to open up the box. I'm going to pause the video here because the box is very, very tight, and I don't want to waste time of me just in the background moaning because I can't get the box open. So I'm going to pause it here, and I'll be right back in a second. Right, so I managed to get her out of the sleeve. I don't know why, but it was very, very tight indeed. Do excuse the background noise. I'll just remove the model from there. As always, we have the instructions, the warranty, and the Collector's Club subscription. I won't go through those, as obviously it's the same with every review. Apart from, of course, the instructions are for the Jinty. Now, if we look at the model, it's in the beautiful ice cube packaging, as per usual. And on the front's the price tag, £65. As always, I got this from Signals Models Midsummer Norton, my local model shop. £65 for this model is great value. As you know, Bachmann have recently announced their price increases. Some of the price increases are as high as 20%, and some even higher on certain products. And of course, all the models in the range are affected, including the Jinty. So now these Jintys tend to retail between £70 and £80 RRP, which, yeah, was a bit steep in my opinion, but still it's a lovely, lovely model indeed. Now, one thing I have noticed about this model is, if you look at the top, there isn't any, or the bottom, there isn't any separately fitted detail packs, because the model is pretty much, you know, detailed up for you. The vacuum pipe on the front, as you can see, is fitted. The one on the back is. We'll go into closer detail with that when it's on the track. But most of the details have all been pre-fitted, and I guess the only details they could have really added separately was maybe the fireman's tools, which you could put along the top of the tanks. But apart from that, it's pretty much all on the model for you, which is absolutely excellent. So, of course, there's only one thing to do now, which is to get her out and put her on the track. So, be right back in a moment. Now that she's out of her packaging, we could clearly see that beautiful SDJR Persian blue livery, and she looks absolutely stunning in it. Really, really suits this quirky little loco. Now, we start off with the smoke box, and we have a lot of rivet detail indeed. Now, being around a real Jinty at the Avon Valley Railway and filming one over the past few weeks, if you've seen from my previous videos, like the Avon Valley Railway Gala and the recent yellow timetable they had there using number 47406 from the Great Central Railway, you can see that she does have a lot of rivets, and Bachmann have done very, very well to capture these. With it on the smokebox door, you can see they go around the outside of the actual smokebox itself, and there's even some on the actual smokebox door itself. As well on the smokebox door, of course, we have the running number, which is number 23, really, really nicely applied in that white text. We've also got a separately fitted handrail with that beautiful, like Fowler design smokebox. It looks absolutely gorgeous, as with most Midland engines from around this period. We also have a separately fitted lamp iron on the top there, as is the same on the running plate. We also have a pre-fitted vacuum pipe. The lamp irons are also obviously pre-fitted. It'd be very, very fiddly to attach this separately, I believe, in a detailing pack. But the vacuum pipe, which is surprising, is already pre-fitted, and it is a lovely feature indeed. On the buffer beams, on the buffer beam, I should say the front one anyway, we have more rivet detail, and we have sprung buffers. I'm not going to stick my finger around and press them because I may lose focus. But yes, they are sprung, unlike some of the more up-to-date models which have done away with this. As I've mentioned in previous reviews, as long as the buffers are metal, I don't particularly care if they're sprung or not. But it is a nice little feature for this loco anyway, which is quite surprising considering it's quite a small little loco. Coming on to the actual chassis itself and the wheels, we got the 060 wheel arrangement. We also have the brake rigging. As you can see, it is along the outside of the wheels. Now, I personally love this design of brake rigging. I don't know what it is. I just think it adds to the overall feel of these little locos. It's also on the Bachmann pannier tanks as well, and I just think it's like a little quirky little feature, really. Coming up onto the side of the boiler, we have lots and lots and lots of pipework, as you can clearly see here. Now, I didn't do my research as always, and I honestly don't know what half of this pipework does, but I do know there is a lot of it on the real locos, and Bachmann have done very, very well to capture it, and it's all separately fitted. Now, this is quite surprising, really, because this model, believe it or not, well, the moulding for this model anyway, is, I would say, round about 10 years old, maybe even older. It came out in the early 2000s, and as you know, it's 2014, so that'd make it 2004, 10 years ago. So I reckon it came out maybe even a bit longer than 10 years ago. But the model is still well up to the high standard of modern models today, I believe, especially for tank engines, because we have very many. We're starting to get a few new types of tank engine on the market, but not very many. But the Jinty really does stand up very, very well and easily competes with some of the newer ones being produced by Dapol, DJ models, I believe it is, and other locos like the, of course, the Bachmann 1F, which, you know, body detail-wise is not much different to the Jinty, but there is a lot of cab detail in that one. So you never know. Well, those may be added to the railway at some point, but at the moment, I think the Jinty is good enough. Coming up onto the top, we have the water tanks, and there's quite a lot of detail on top of these as well. You see, there's quite a lot of little, obviously the filler cap there, and other rivet details as such. On the other side, you can probably just see it there. I'm going to zoom in on it, and might lose focus here. Ooh, no, we just have it. There's a hook there in the centre of the screen. Now that is an interesting little feature, as that is the holder for the fireman's tools, like the shovel, the irons that you would use to scrape the firebox out at the end of the day. You get the ashes through the ash pit on the bottom, and it, you know, it's just another little little detail which has been really, really nicely added to this model. Onto the front of the cab, if it focuses, we got the on top of the firebox, we've got the beautifully separately fitted safety valves. Again, they are, I believe, they're turned metal. Then we have that lovely little Midland whistle. But also around the windows, we've got this beautiful gold edged lining, which is on the SDJR livery. And I think Bachmann have really, really well captured it, and it looks so fine and delicate. Now, onto the side of the cab, and there are a few little details here that I really, really would like to mention, especially for this livery here. First of all, in the centre of the screen, right next to the edge of the cab, there's a thing that's sticking up, like a little pole with like a little box on top. It almost looks like a little phone box, if you know what I mean, like those little BT modern phone boxes that you see in the streets now. But that, believe it or not, I only figured it out when I saw the saw the Jinty in the previous video to this, running at the Avon Valley Railway. But that is actually a water filler gauge, so you can tell the level of the water in the tanks. It's actually on the outside, which I thought was a very, very interesting feature for these engines. As you can see from the front, the cab's actually stepped, so the tanks are wider than the cab, so the driver only had to stick his head around to actually see the water gauge. And I'm not sure if there's one on the other side. I don't think there is. No, there isn't one on the other side, so this is the driver's side. Yeah, he had this little water gauge here. But I only just noticed it, but right next to the water gauge, you can see some really, really fine text here. It says 3P for free passenger and 3G. Now, I'm not sure what the 3G would stand for. I presume it'd be free goods. Normally, obviously, these are known as Jinty 3Fs, which stands for freight. But maybe on the earlier ones, they might have used G for goods instead of freight. But underneath that, we can just about see it. It looks like there's a bit of dust has got on it. But you can see quite clearly legible Temple Combe, which is probably where the real 23 would have been shedded. As you know, Temple Combe is a big shed on the S&D. It's the end of the main line section of the S&D, joining on to the southern route. at Templecombe, obviously, and also the branch line which went off down towards Bournemouth. Which basically started at Templecombe as well. So Templecombe was a major shed for the S&D, along with Bath Green Park. Bath Green Park was obviously the biggest, but Templecombe was the second biggest, being at the other end of the line practically. And obviously, number 23 by the looks of it was shedded there. We got the beautiful SDJR text. Really, really well applied. I absolutely love that. The 3D feature they used. All this must have been hand painted on the original locos. Obviously on the model it's been printed on using various text methods they use. But it really, really has captured that beautiful livery very, very well indeed. And such a short-lived livery too, as mentioned earlier on. We also have number 23 here appears to be one of the Jinties with an interesting feature, what they used to call the Clockwork Keyhole, I believe it's nicknamed. I believe there's some sort of sandbox filler in there, and certain Jinties had it, certain Jinties didn't. And as you can see, this one, number 47327, which is obviously what painted as number 23 here, has it, and maybe even the real 23 had it. I honestly do not know, but certain Jinties had it and certain Jinties didn't, but clearly she does. Again, we're on to the chassis. We've got the step ladder here, and we come up into the cab. On the bunker we got the running number beautifully applied, 23 again, and there's also a builder's plate. I'm going to risk zooming in, and it hasn't paid off. It's lost focus, but it is clearly legible. Sorry about the dog. Maybe the dog's barking at the focus. Very sorry about that. It's probably a postman's turned up or something. Anyway, it is clearly legible when it does focus, but it isn't going to focus. But anyway, I'm sure if you briefly saw it there, I'm sure you could pause on it. Go on, pause on it. There you go. If you pause it there, oh, it says Bagnall Limited. Suffolk, England. I could just about read that. I do apologise for the dog. He does bark quite a lot. People that do turn up to the gate. Anyway, onto the cab detail, and there is surprisingly quite a lot for a closed cab loco. You can see there's got the regulator there, various other pipeworks and levers. Now, I did do a review on a Jinty previously, my friend's Jinty, #1 classic car fans, and I did make a massive mistake in the cab, so I'm not going to do it again. Regarding one of the features in the cab, the reverser, I accidentally called it the handbrake, which was very, very stupid, and I did mention that in the review, but I'm not going to do it this time because I know different now. That was a long, long time ago. That's probably one of my first reviews I ever did on the channel. But anyway, there is quite a lot of cab detail in there. If you look at just the right angle, you can it's quite clear to see. Onto the back of the loco, again we have the rear buffer beam, and again there's quite a lot of rivet detail on the buffer beam, if it does focus. Not doing too well for focusing today, but there is quite a lot of rivet detail down there as well. Also, as always, like the front, the buffers are sprung, and also the vacuum pipe there is also pre-fitted, along with we've got separately fitted lamp irons, again obviously all pre-fitted to the model. Then we come up to the just below the bunker itself, and we got another plate, clearly legible, a bit more clear to read than the builder's plate on the side, but it has 1,200 gallon for which is the water limit on the engine for the inside tanks. Very nice little feature been printed on there. And then, of course, we got the coal load, which is a bit plasticky, I must admit, but it's, as with most of the models lately, but the thing is, a bit of weathering would dull that down. But if I just zoom out, it's just such a beautiful livery. I wouldn't, it'd be almost sacrilege to weather this loco. It is just so gorgeous. So, I guess there's another bit to do in this review, which is of course the running qualities. So I'll pause the video here and I'll be right back in a second. So won't be a moment. As per usual at the moment, I'm still using the HM2000 double controller. I still have to replace it with the Gagemaster D controller, but I haven't got round to it. But still, it provides very, very smooth running for this model indeed. If we zoom in on her here, Now if I just turn the dial very, very slightly, get a bit of power, and look at that. Now I must admit, she's probably one of the smoothest Bachmann steam locos I've had straight from the box in a long, long time. Some Bachmann locos, particularly steam locos, when they come out the box, they are very, very juddery and take a long, long time before they run in. The 45 XX, as previously reviewed, was definitely one of those. I'm slowly increasing the power while I talk a moment. But yeah, they tend to judder about a bit. They sometimes like click. It tends to be noticeable with locos with more rods, of course, like the Worcester valve gear, Great Western valve gear. But as the Jinty has all the workings on the inside, none of that needs to be added to the outside. So it really does improve, I suppose, improve the performance. But as you can see, and here, she is a very, very quiet runner too. Probably one of the quietest locos, again, I've had in quite a while. Don't mind the drilling noise. Some drilling going on outside, so that's not the noise of the engine, so don't worry about that. There we go, drilling stopped so you can hear her. But she looks absolutely gorgeous. Now some people have mentioned that the SDJR Blue Livery from certain angles does look black, and as you can see here, it does to the eye look black, but as it comes into the light we can clearly see it does change into the beautiful Persian blue livery. But I can totally see why, because I've seen photos of the real or 47327 running as, of course, 23 as seen here, and some people's photos taken from certain angles does make her look like she's running black, and I believe that some Jintys, well, I know that some stock on the S&D did carry SDJR black, so you never know, some of the Jintys might have very, 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 very shortly, again, as mentioned earlier on, this livery was only lived for, was only in service for about 1 year, because obviously the Jintys were built in 1929, and then they were taken into LMS ownership on the S&D in 1930, so, you know, a maximum of maybe a year and a half, maybe, in this beautiful livery, and it maybe even the black livery. But what a livery it is, and she does look absolutely stunning. So I guess there's another thing to do, which is of course do a bit of a running video with some rolling stock. So before I end this review and round up what I think of this loco, we will reverse her on to some matching stock. Now I haven't really got any proper period stock, but I have got some wagons that I think will suit her very, very well. And well, I would say they are quite period. So be right back in a second. So what rake do we have lined up for this beautiful little loco? Now if I slowly put her in reverse, there we go, follow her around. Here we go, she's coming up to the train now. Slowly does it. There we go. And we have a rake of 8 Rivlington coal wagons and a Midland brake van. Now, reason for these Rivlington coal wagons, I've reviewed them in my wagon review week a couple of months back. I do plan to do another one in the near future when I get the time to do one. But as mentioned in that review, these wagons have a very, very historical local connection, and of course a connection to the S&D, as Radstock, as you can see on the side there, was a major station along the route of the S&D, and a major colliery was there, which is called the Rivlington Colliery, and Rivlington was served by the S&D, I believe. There was also the Great Western also went in there, so I believe the wagons went both on the Great Western and the S&D route, but it's probably one of the closest collieries you could get in, in ready-to-buy wagon form at the moment, with a local S&D connection. And of course these wagons would have been in this livery at this time when this engine saw service on the S&D, so it's actually the perfect match for her. The only difference is of course the Midland brake van on the rear. Now my Midland brake van is in British Rail grey livery. But this sort of grey would have been seen on the LMS ones during this period too. Now these wagons were confirmed to have ran on the S&D, which is why I got one, obviously, well, I got two. I got one with ducats, one without, in British Rail livery for my S&D, when I do S&D running on the layout. But these would have seen service, obviously, pre-British Railways on the line, in various different liveries. So really it's not much different to the LMS grey livery that these wagons would, these vans would have been seen in. So it really does make a lovely little period rake. So now the only thing left is, of course, to rake the loco. And what can I say? 100%. You got to get one of these. 10 out of 10. They're absolutely brilliant. The Jinty is just such an iconic, lovely loco. For any Midland region modeller, and of course preserved modeller. Now this loco especially is perfect for the preserved period on anybody's layout, and of course that very brief time scale when these locos would have been seen in this livery on the S&D. Although obviously it's still a bit iffy on whether they did carry blue in service, as mentioned earlier on, but personally I believe they did, as 2Ps and 4Fs were confirmed to have been seen in this livery. So why not Jinty? But it would have been only for a very very short period of time. But they're beautiful. They've got lots and lots of detail, bags of detail, all mostly pre-fitted stuff, and the running qualities of these models is absolutely brilliant. It's the smoothest run I have had out of the box in a long time. And of course, the beautiful crisp livery. What can I say about that? Just stunning. So I say 10 out of 10 from me, 100%. I would go out and get these while you can. Obviously the SDJR Blue ones have sold out at most retailers recently, but I know my friends over at Signals Models Midsummer Norton still have 3 of these in stock, I believe, for £65, which of course is good value now, considering that the prices of these models has significantly raised over the past few months. I think they're retailing from around 70 to 80 now, which is getting a bit steep really, but it's the way things are going. But if you want to grab yourself one at the price of £65, I would say go out and get them and give Signals a call. So that's all for now, and I guess all that's left to do is to see her pulling away before I upload a running video, which will soon follow. So anyway, this has been SDJR SNF88 speaking, and thanks for watching.